Most people think that mixing on headphones isn't possible. But you know what? I'm ready to call bullshit. Of course you can mix on headphones, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. In fact, in many situations mixing on headphones can be better than mixing on monitors, but we'll come back to that idea in a moment. Mixing with headphones is possible, and for many people it's a big step towards making mixes that sound clean and professional. How about this? Take a listen to this track from my recent EP that was mixed entirely on headphones. So keep watching if you want to learn my 5 secret weapons for mixing with headphones so you can apply these 5 tricks to your mixes and start producing better music today. But first be sure to grab my free mixing with headphones cheat sheet to help you apply this and make better mixes. There's a link in the description below or on screen now. Okay, let's dive right in. So I want to get something straight. There are no rules when it comes to music and audio. Anytime somebody tries to tell you you can never do this or always do this, it should be a huge red flag because none of that exists. There are no rules. So when people tell you that you can't mix on headphones, I'm here to tell you that they're wrong. So before we move on to those 5 tricks, let's start with the benefits of mixing with headphones. First of all, you don't have to worry about room acoustics. Now, I think it's really important that you do learn about room acoustics, and ultimately you're working towards having a treated room. You can't beat that for a listening environment, but mixing on headphones allows you to bypass the room completely, which has a number of benefits. First of all, it means it's more consistent. You can use headphones, and a pair of headphones are going to sound exactly the same in any room, on public transport, when you're traveling, wherever, on a plane. It's going to sound the same. That gives you consistency. So once you learn one pair of headphones, you know how a mix should sound. Now, another benefit is that it's actually easier to hear subtleties. So when you're new to mixing, sometimes it's really hard to hear what you're doing. And when you're loading up an EQ or a compressor, you're changing the settings, but you can't actually hear what's going on and you're not sure if you're doing the right thing or not. Well, headphones can help with that because it's kind of like zooming in. It helps you to focus on those smaller subtleties. Now, of course, 2 more huge benefits of headphones are A, they're affordable compared to treating a room. First of all, you've got to find a room to build a studio in, then you've got to treat it, you've got to spend time and money on that, and then you've got to buy studio monitors, which can cost thousands, whereas headphones can cost $100, $200, and the best headphones in the world, in my opinion, the Sennheiser HD600s, are only $500, $600. And finally, they're portable. You can mix on the go, you can mix in someone else's home, you can mix on the plane, you can mix on public transport, you can mix anywhere just with a set of headphones and a laptop. Okay, so maybe you're sold on the benefits, but what about mixing with headphones versus monitors? So here's the way I see it. Monitors vary dramatically. Depending on the room, the monitors you're using, the acoustics of that room, you could go from anywhere from really poor, a really bad mixing environment, to a perfect mixing environment. Theoretically, you could have the perfect environment. So you've got this whole range of poor to perfect, whereas headphones just kind of consistently sit around okay to good. They're here. So this is all studio monitors, headphones, they're just consistent. So if you have a really poor mixing environment, somewhere down here, maybe you haven't acoustically treated your studio or you're limited to a certain room in your home that sounds bad and you can't add treatment, well then headphones are going to be an improvement on that environment. Whereas ultimately what you're working towards is having an environment that's better than mixing on headphones, a treated room with good monitors and a good acoustic environment, because headphones are kind of limited, they're just stuck here. So you just need to think, am I at the bottom end of this scale and are headphones going to be an improvement, or am I at the top end of this scale and headphones are still a useful tool, but you're probably going to spend more time mixing on your monitors. So the end goal is to have an acoustically treated room with a good set of monitors. But if that's not possible, whether you can't afford it, you don't have the space for that, or you're just working towards that, but right now you don't have that, then mixing with headphones is an incredibly useful technique for improving your mixes and making sure they translate well, they sound clean and professional. And if you're mixing in a bad room and you're not using headphones at least as some part of your workflow, then you're missing out big time. So now let's go through those 5 secret weapons for mixing with headphones that ensure that mixing becomes easier, that your mixes sound good everywhere, and that you actually enjoy the mixing process. So secret weapon number 1 is to use dedicated mixing headphones. Now you could use affordable headphones, you could use any pair of headphones, but if you use dedicated mixing headphones, Ideally, open back headphones, you're going to get a much flatter response. You don't have these big peaks and troughs. It's more even. That's just going to make the mixing process so much easier. In the same way, expensive monitors sound better than poor monitors, expensive headphones are going to sound better but also be much easier to mix on than affordable headphones. So if you're going to be mixing on headphones for the majority of the mix, it's worth spending a bit more money to get a set of dedicated mixing headphones instead of consumer or hi-fi headphones. Personally, I love the Sennheiser HD600s. They're my go-to. They're what I mix on a lot of the time. And I also love the Sony MDR7506 for a slightly more affordable option just to check my mixes. Honestly, it doesn't matter what model you use or even how much you spend, as long as you get headphones that are designed for use in the studio and then learn them. That's the main thing here. Listen to loads of music on them, use them all the time until you really get to know them and truly understand them. And that's going to get you way further than anything else. Secret weapon number 2 is using reference tracks. Because on headphones, sometimes it's different. If you're used to mixing on monitors or if you're using a new set of headphones, you need a way to calibrate your ears and a point of reference. That's what reference tracks are. So load up a professional release, import a professional track into your DAW, import 3 to 5 ideally. You want to have at least 3 so that you're not tempted to copy one track. Or even just check tracks on Spotify, on Google Play, wherever. Just use reference tracks, compare your mix to them. Listen to the panning, the low end, the top end, the volume balance, everything. Focus on individual elements and use that to guide you through the mixing process and to help you decide how much low end should there be, how loud should the bass guitar be, how loud should the snare be, etc, etc, etc. Because with headphones, sometimes panning can sound a bit weird. You might not be used to hearing hard left and hard right panning on headphones. It can sound unnatural, but when you check your references, what you'll realize is that everything does it. All professional tracks use some form of panning, and you need to get used to hearing that on headphones. So make sure you use references. Secret weapon number 3 is to check your mix on speakers. Now this seems counterintuitive. We're talking about mixing with headphones here. But there are a few things that are more difficult to do on headphones. For example, panning and also space. When you're trying to dial in your reverb, your delay, and your stereo effects, sometimes it's difficult to do on headphones. So you can just flick over to speakers. They don't have to be monitors, it could be small computer speakers, it could be hi-fi speakers, or you just need to bounce your mix and go and check it in the car, check it on your hi-fi. Just make sure you listen to it on some speakers to look for errors, and ideally use speakers for the very end of the process for tweaking your panning and your effects. Secret weapon number 4 is to mix at low volumes. Ear fatigue is much more of a problem when it comes to headphones because you're playing audio directly into your ears, and if you turn them up, which a lot of people are tempted to do with headphones, it's going to very quickly lead to ear fatigue. So use a similar philosophy to mixing with monitors. You should be mixing at around speaking level. Conversational speaking level. That's the kind of volume you want to be mixing at. If you can't have a conversation with someone whilst you've got your headphones on, they're too loud. And that's a good test, even if you're on your own. Put on your headphones, start talking out loud, talk to yourself, hey, how's it going, Rob? Having a nice day. Can you hear yourself? If not, they're probably too loud. And just keep it really low. As low as you can, really, ideally, while still be able to hear everything. Now, you can still turn it up every now and then to check for low end, turn it down to see what sticks out. Ideally, the vocals should stick out more at lower volumes, and you can use it as a tool, but for most of the mix session, you want to be at a very comfortable low level. Really low. And it's probably going to be lower than you think, but ultimately it's going to help you to improve your hearing, it's going to prevent ear fatigue, and it's going to allow you to mix for longer and for your mixes to sound better as an end result. And then finally, secret weapon number 5 is using specialized tools. Now, using all of those 4 tips, you can make mixes that sound awesome, mixes that translate. It's going to make mixing easier by using headphones, all of those benefits. But this is really the icing on the cake, number 5, which is using tools like SONARWORKS Reference. I love this software. It just calibrates to your headphones. You put in what model of headphone you have, it calibrates them so you've got a perfectly flat response. And straight away, your headphones are pretty much flat. And that's going to help you to translate far better when you take those mixes out into the real world because you've mixed them on a flat set of headphones. So SONARWORKS Reference, awesome for dealing with the frequency spectrum, frequency balance. But then the second tool I love to use is Waves NX. And this is a slightly different mixing tool for headphones. What Waves NX does is replicates the experience of listening on speakers. So it puts you in a virtual room and you get crossover, so you can hear what's coming out of the right ear and your left ear like you would in real life. And it also recreates a natural space with a bit of reverb. And this really helps for adjusting the panning, for adjusting the effects. Those things that I said earlier were more difficult on headphones. When you load up Waves NX, you can kind of recreate that experience of listening on speakers. So then you can check your mix on speakers without having to use speakers. So these two tools in combination, SONARWORKS reference on the whole time, and then Waves NX just every now and then or towards the end to check your panning and check your effects and your depth, stuff like that. Two very, very useful tools that are going to help you take your headphone mixing game to the next level. So there you go, 5 secret weapons for mixing with headphones. Now, mixing on headphones is quite different to mixing with monitors, so you need to actually apply these 5 tips and make sure you remember them. And to help you with that, I put together a free mixing with headphones cheat sheet that includes these 5 tips and some more tips just to remind you, to guide you through that process. You can use it, reference it when you're mixing on headphones to make sure your mixes sound awesome every single time. It's completely free. There's a link in the description below or on screen now. So I want to hear from you. Do you mix on headphones? Is that your main mixing system? Or do you mix on monitors? Which do you spend more time on? Headphones or monitors? Just leave a comment below with just one of those words. I look forward to seeing what the ratio is, how many people are on monitors, how many on headphones. And that's it from me. So I'll see you same time, same place next week. And remember, create regardless.